So I have here a Sears catalog from fall winter 1953. Sears Roebuck and Company. This is the actual cover from 1953. It's a little damaged, but there's so few of these left in existence. I dare say there's probably less than 100 of these left in the whole world, unless there's a hidden stash of them somewhere. So this is the back of it. So this is 1953. We're gonna see clothes and toys and items that are oh my gosh, how many years ago was that? I mean, speed order Sears. I guess these are little stamps you can attach when you make your order. There's some saddle shoes here that were real popular in the 50s. And I'm going to try to be very careful with this. Underwear for kids. This is the clothing. I mean, this is it from 1953. This is a primary source of histories you can get. This is how kids dressed. The sweaters, I don't know what they're called, these circle skirt dresses. It's just sort of amazing. I mean, in catalogs like this, most of the time were thrown out when they look at a little cowgirl outfit and little riding pants and everything. There's some kind of your shopping center makes Sears convenient catalog sales office. One-stop shopping headquarters. Someone had that tucked in there 70 years ago. And as we just flip through, we get a glimpse of nylon, modern fabric. We're getting a glimpse of how people dressed and looked 70 years ago. Baby clothes. Honeysuckle lab-tested diapers. Back then you bought cloth diapers. You didn't buy Pampers or Huggies. And you had, if you had the money, you would have a diaper cleaning service pick them up. These are nursery things, electrical aids for nursery. Just plug in little TV kind of things that showed little pictures. There's bottle warmers. Formula was all the rage. Breastfeeding wasn't popular back in the 50s. Formula was how, or milk, which is interesting. And then we get to baby toys, prams and strollers, playpens, high chairs. Now we get to mattresses for children. Honeysuckle crib mattresses. I guess Honeysuckle was a brand. Oh, little slippers with animals on them, which are cute. Little Roy Rogers cowboy boots. Roy Rogers was very popular in 1953. He had his own TV show. He advertised for shredded wheat. And here's girls' shoes. Here's boys' shoes. Notice you don't see a lot of tennis shoes like you do nowadays. It's like the only shoe kids wear nowadays is tennis shoes, but back then they wore more formal looking shoes. And let's look at how children were expected to dress. You have little cowboy play outfits. This was Roy Rogers and Dale Evans play outfits. But when they were in school, there was an expectation that kids dressed well. I mean, you have full suits for kids, and I know that a lot of schools have been coming back to more of a uniform approach because of the bullying and so forth that comes from trendy clothing. And there was a wide range of clothes for children that are strikingly formal. I don't think you could find this many suits for young boys as you can now. I mean, as you could then. Little hats. Once again with the Roy Rogers and Dale Evans hats. Socks. Roy Rogers and Trigger gloves. I wonder if Sears was the Roy Rogers official sponsor. Fraternity prep coats. We're getting into older kids now. And as you can see, the expectation was of more of a business casual. I mean, robes and pajamas. There was a lot of modesty in the 50s. And here we get to jeans. Sort of a Western approach to jeans, not like the Rebel Without a Cause approach, but more like ranch wear. And there's your satin jackets. Now look at this, motorcycle jackets, and this is interesting to me because in a few years, by around 1957, this kind of clothing would be just absolutely banned. In 1953, they were selling it as sporting clothing, like for motorcycle or whatever. And I mean, the little zipper pull is a rabbit's foot. I mean, it's very much like greaser punk kind of jackets that would become problematic in the 50s. But here they were still selling them innocently because that trend, the greaser trend, really didn't start until 56 and 57. In 53, buying a biker jacket was just a biker jacket, which is interesting. Here's pretty much young women's pajamas and sleepwear. Hats. And I mean, look at these amazing colors. I don't want this catalog to go to waste because this is a color record of a time that is long gone, that is so easy to forget about. And this is a true record of how people dressed and looked. That might be on some flash drive, and this is definitely damaged, but it is truly a record of our history. Imagine having to dress like this for school. And look, take note of the hairstyles. Very conservative. But I thought this was a classy look. When I look at some of these outfits for ladies, it is a very classy kind of look. And this is like Spanx, girly kind of stuff, girdles. I don't think they had Spanx back then, but that was the same purpose of it. very classic and classy looks for ladies back in the 50s. Here's the bargain price coats. Look at the little things that they're over their hats. The what is this, sort of a mesh material that just added a little element of class to their outfits. I'm not gonna lie when I say that times past, things were just much classier and more put together looking than they are now. There was the clothing sort of helped, I think, with a confident feel, whereas today, you know, we don't go for that now. And I'm not like always trying to trash the times we live in today. I mean, I accept the changes that go through our culture with interest, and I find it all fascinating to see how things change, develop, evolve, or devolve. I think in the last 5-10 years there's been a lot of de-evolution, a lot of I mean, kind of a drastic level of degrading our how we look, how we conduct ourselves. And I don't think that's the average person, everyday people, but I think that's the media's that's how they want to portray people. Sort of a devolved, less confident, more victimized thing, and it's just so much different. And I know there's going to be people who argue that the 50s was a time of repression, and I've even toyed with that idea too. And there's no doubt about it that there were different attitudes then, but they weren't all bad any more than all the attitudes today are all bad. And we can't pigeonhole an entire decade. It was a time after World War II. There was prosperity for certain people in the country, not everybody. And there was also a status quo. There was a great deal of control, and I think the control emanated from a desire to not allow the world to get how it got in the 40s in World War II. And I think people were very, very controlled, and you could say repressed, because they were terrified of making the same mistakes that led to that war. We, you know, in just between 1914 and 1945, there were two devastating wars in this world. And we continually try to avoid it happening again, although I do think right now we've slipped up. Because to avoid the things that happened in the past, there does need to be some sort of Cold War elements in play, and we're lacking that now. But that's for a whole different video. But what I'm saying is the 50s was a time of, although there was the Korean War and other things, and it wasn't a perfect time, it was a time where we were holding tightly to our culture and our decisions. And that sort of went away in the 60s. And the 60s things started to evolve again. I don't think there's any doubt about that. This catalog is happy to be opened again. I can feel it coming. I can feel it stretching, and I just feel like this thing hasn't been opened in 50 years. Of course, you can't buy any of this stuff now. We're just looking back in time. Now we're getting away from clothing and we're getting into perfumes and treatments and creams, cosmetics, lipstick. Lady Esther. Here's all the makeup stuff. Pantyhose. Or nylons, actually. These weren't pantyhose. These were just straight up nylons. They even had that cool stripe going down the back of the leg, which was the sign of good quality. You ever watch movies about World War II where it shows the girls and they draw that stripe? I think they showed that in Radio Days and Hope and Glory. This is more like lingerie. The Harem Trellis Ensemble. So this is your racier 1950s. Having not lived in the 50s, I'm actually a bit surprised. I wonder if mothers kept this catalog up on the top shelf so their kids couldn't see it. I just think that some of that was a little bit on the racy side. For 1953 at least. Not today, but I mean, you see stuff like that in your mailbox today, but I don't know, but I'm just guessing that a lot of pretty shoes here. Sweet young slip-on. Let me get some coffee. Hand-sewn vamps, and vamp met seductress. Here we get back to the saddle shoes, which was a big thing in the 50s. I think the funny thing too, it's interesting. I lived in times when if you wanted shoes or clothes like this, you would have to go to like a vintage clothing store. But now you can it's probably just as easy as a click on Etsy to either find this stuff or find people who still make it. Jeepers. It looks kind of like Converse shoes. I mean, we do live in a time where you can recapture a lot of this stuff. You know, these shoe ads could have been drawn by Andy Warhol for all we know, because that's what his original job was. Andy Warhol drew shoes like this and painted them for catalogs. Men's shoes haven't changed a whole heck of a lot. I still feel like I wear something very similar to this to work. I mean, I'm sure there's subtle differences, but essentially they're brown or they're black and they're leather and they have laces. So, and they're somewhat shiny. So, man, we get to more leather jackets. Once again, these in 3 or 4 years, these would become very controversial and probably wouldn't even be in a Sears catalog. I might be wrong about that, but I'm just guessing because they associated this with the greaser and the biker movements, and they were considered punks. But I think in 1953, it hadn't really hit home yet. 1953 was still had a lot of the elements of the 40s. Really, the 50s, as it came in, started around 55. Just like the 80s. And I can remember this. See, until 1984, 85, it wasn't a whole heck of a lot different than the 70s. Which I also remember. I started school in the 70s. But it wasn't, the 80s identity it wasn't really set in until, well, as late as 1986. That's when it really felt like the 80s. The straight up, the peak of the 80s, in my opinion, was 86. That's when we were undeniably in the 80s. By 88, when Bush became president, things started changing and the attitude started going into what would become the 90s. It would be kind of cool if we all dressed like this again. I mean, I just kind of think it would look sharp, you know? I could go to work in a suit. I mean, we might get tired of it, and it's not comfortable for sure. But just think, too, back then, a man would go to work. He didn't have a computer on his desk. He had a telephone. He had a Rolodex. He might have had an intercom. And he had pens and paper. You know, he had things to sign or reports to write. Maybe a typewriter, depending on what his job was. But I don't think that they were sitting in their desk for, you know, like we do today, you know, 8 or 9 hours or more. I mean, I guess in my job, I could, if I chose to, I could wear a suit and tie to work every day, but I don't have to, and I don't. Wallets. I just bought a new wallet the other day, and I made an observation. I went to Ross to buy a new wallet. They're always cheaper there. And then I noticed that they're not really made out of leather that much anymore. Some of them are, but a lot of them aren't. Which, once upon a time, you bought a wallet, and that could last you your lifetime. And now, I mean, I could dig out some of my older wallets and just start using them again because they were made out of leather. But now they're made out of something else. It's like pleather or something, and they just don't last. And I just noticed that. Same with belts. Like, a belt used to be a strap of leather with holes punched in it. And now it's not. It's peels, and after a while you wear it, and the belt doesn't last anymore like it used to. These smooth smoking jackets. Of course, back then, everyone smoked. I mean, it was the thing to do in the 50s. Everyone, it was acceptable to smoke at work and smoke. I mean, kids couldn't smoke at school, but, you know. It's interesting. Look, on this page is you can buy cigarette lighters, cigarette holders, trunks, luggage, candy, pipes, nuts, and decorations. It's interesting how now we get to some jewelry, or as they say where I live, jewelry, which drives me a little crazy. Was born here too, but it's jewelry. Freemason rings. It doesn't drive me that crazy. People could say what they want and I don't judge. I might chuckle at it, but I don't get angry like other people do. I've known some people, like sometimes I say I'm fixing to do something, which down here means I'm about to do something. And other people from other states, they cringe when they hear that, and I'm like, that's just how we are, and you shouldn't get so angry because people who live in different places don't live exactly the way you do. Dale Evans, Roy Rogers, and Flash Gordon. We actually have a third brand. We're getting into like cool stuff like pencils with names on it. Venus Velvet, Super Velvet, charcoal pencils like drawing pencils, art supplies, baking clay. It's getting interesting now. If you're still with me, we're getting into cameras, which are pretty much obsolete these days unless you're some kind of professional photographer, and even those use digital cameras now. A Viewmaster. You know what I heard? If you you can go on eBay and you can buy old Viewmaster reels from the 50s and so forth. Any Viewmaster, no matter when it was made, they'll work. They never ever made a Viewmaster that couldn't use any Viewmaster reel. So isn't that nice? Religious cards, greeting cards, stationery, medical books. Yeah, home medical books. We had home medical books when I was growing up, because you didn't always go to the doctor, so you would check your medical book. Magazine subscriptions, Bibles, typewriters, adding machines, safes, like a whole office stuff, like file cabinets, file cabinet with a safe inside of it, pen and ink wells, pencil sharpeners. I mean, these are things I remember, but tower tape recorders, 2 reel tapes, so you guys had to load the tape in yourself. First aid supplies, paper plates, aluminum foil. We get into some vitamins, geriatric capsules, therapeutic Vita Pearls, vitamin B12, liver iron folic acid, vitamin A, children's vitamins. Enemas. Well, sadly, I understand. I didn't have the experience, but my parents related to me this. In the 50s, enemas were given to kids regularly. As crazy as it sounds, enemas were a regular thing done for children to keep them healthy. And that's why you find all of these. Kind of hard to imagine now. We get to like Depends for people who have issues. Medicines. Yeah, just different types of drugs. Saccharin tablets. I guess that's for coffee. It was a sugar-free sweetener. Aspirin. Exercise machines. The shaky machine we always think about when we see Pee-wee's Playhouse and stuff. This sort of Jack LaLanne kind of stuff for exercise. A steam bath cabinet. My goodness. More medicines. Hearing aids. Shaving brushes. This is stuff for people with hernias. You had more of that back then. These are trusses and so forth. Basically, and there was a whole thing for it because more men had hernias back then because more men did manual labor. Hernias aren't quite as common now. You can't really get a hernia by sitting at a desk all day typing on a computer, but you can if you lift things, work hard, and so forth. Wheelchairs. Now we're getting into yarn. Women still at this time knitted a lot. My grandmother was always knitting. And more sewing, crafting stuff. Wow. And we get some color fabric. Corduroy. Printed corduroy. More fabric patterns. You know, and this could be used for dresses or making quilts. Or quilts were made out of old dresses or old ties and stuff. Because things weren't wasted as much back then as they are now. And back then, you know, like a lot of times you could go buy yourself a new blanket, or you could make a quilt. You know, you could make your own stuff. And that was also in a time period when we all didn't work ourselves to death and come home so tired we could barely move. And that's how today is. I'll be suing you. Here's articles in the catalog. If a court awards damages to a visitor or worker injured on your farm, you pay. The cost may be financial ruin. So it's little interesting articles that they're mixing in here. And buying dinnerware. Oh wow! There's a good chance I might recognize some of these patterns from plates I ate off of as a kid. My parents have a set in a wooden box full of silverware, which was a wedding gift. They would break it out for special occasions. So, towels. You know, now you think when you're, I mean, I'm assuming that you're just a middle class person like me. You know, when you think of towels, I think of Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Big Lots. I don't go all out on buying towels. But back then, you know, $4.59, that was a lot of money. Shower curtains. We get into bedding. Back then, a mattress was very simple. You know, now mattresses are all engineered to help you sleep because all of us are having sleep problems. And that's from our lifestyle. Here's books. The Silver Chalice. This, I believe, by Edward R. Murrow, the great broadcaster. Lost Hill. The Happy People. And then we get back to towels and bedding again. Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. Man. They had a deal with Sears. Venetian blinds. Oh, I can't remember what those doggone things are called. They go over windows. Hangers. Makes me think of Mommy Dearest. All these are nice hangers to hang your nice clothes on, and I don't see any wire ones. When I was a kid, and if you went to the store to buy cheap hangers, they were made out of wire. Now they're made out of plastic. And curtains. Oh, lots of curtains. You don't always see that nowadays. I mean, some people still dress up their house with curtains, and a lot of other people have completely never bought a curtain in their life. But back in the 50s, I would say most houses, curtains were just essential. And then we get into the mattressing and how they're made. And the cushions on couches. And we get full color looks at some of these very cool 50s style couches. slip covers. Here's action-packed cowboy ensemble. I just see the little kid's bedroom, you know, with the wallpaper and the bed and the lamps and everything with cowboys and Roy Rogers all over it. That was Star Wars. Let's put it like that. That was Star Wars or Frozen back then. Roy Rogers and Dale Evans was Frozen and Star Wars combined. The little girls watched Dale Evans, the little boys watched Roy Rogers. It's... You know, back then, furniture was such a serious thing. They had things called Davenports, and I mean, I don't even know what a Davenport is. Some kind of couch. I mean, we have, you know, Mary and I were together for 6 or maybe 10 years before we even bought an actual, like, furniture set. You know, that actually matched. And we felt really proud of ourselves. But a lot of stuff, you know, we started off with, you know, what we had, and which is either stuff that was given to us or... Now, let me go back even farther. Back in the early 90s, when I first lived on my own, my apartment was decked out with complete 1950s furniture, courtesy of my grandparents, and I wish I'd kept it all. The chairs, the table, the couch, even the TV were from the 50s. And I didn't even think about it at the time because it wasn't that long ago and I didn't care. Now, if knew old me, he would tell me to save all that stuff. Cool colors and warm colors. Look at that floor. That's really cool too. Imagine the excitement. You know, you're a young couple, just started off, and you're picking out your floor and your couches and everything. Hamper heater. It's a heater and it's also a hamper. You put your dirty clothes in it and it keeps you warm while you're in the bathroom. A chicken fryer, toaster, coffee percolator. I had one just like that when I was first out on my own. Waffle irons, blenders, popcorn maker, and steam irons. Regular old oscillating fans, lamps. Here's your radio sets, because you know we're still in the golden age of radio. Record players, or record players with a radio. Dual tape players. Then let's see records you can buy. Hank Williams, Roy Acuff, Eddie Arnold, Carl Smith, Nursery Rhymes, Nursery Favorites, Red Foley, Guy Lombardo, Gene Autry, Tex Ritter, Irish Ballads, Hillbilly Hits, Inspirational Hymns. Not a big variety of records. It's just 2 pages, that's it, of records you could buy from Sears. And I mean, a third of it is just for kids. Hawaiian songs. Pianos. Music instruments. Lutes. Wow. You buy a lute. An accordion. If you. Here's your clocks. Clock radios. Televisions. Oh, wow. $259, $274, $339. TVs were expensive. Goodness gracious, that was a lot of money back then. Considering your average middle class family made $12,000 a year. Had one of those when I was a kid, that exact model. I used to get up in the cold morning and light these up for the match. Kenmore. I think that brand still exists. I wonder, Sears still exists to my knowledge. I heard some stuff that it was getting close to going out of business, but Sears and Kenmore, I'm pretty sure, is still a going concern. Vacuum cleaners. Kenmore. Vacuum cleaners. Cold spot refrigerators. Stick your watermelon in there, your Del Monte. The deep freeze. Put your lattice pie in there. I wouldn't recommend putting everything in there like that without some kind of covering, but I think they did back then. It's a big full fridge. Opelika. It's funny, that map just showed that this catalog was distributed just to the southeast. And I wonder if it was different. I wonder if it had more things for mostly rural people like us. If they had like a different catalog for people who lived in New England, or for people who lived in the Midwest, or Ohio, or Indiana, or whatever. Yeah, it's amazing. You see some recognition of stuff, but there is definitely, like, you see the passage of time too. So much of this stuff now is we just don't use anymore. Now, look, you can buy shotguns and rifles in your Sears catalog. And some target pistols. You know, like 22s and so forth. Straight up pistols. This is sporting. You don't see like AR-15s. Oh my gosh, that I didn't mean to do that, and I feel so terrible. I will have to fix that. It literally just came apart. I have to be very careful how I turn these pages. That was tragic. I have to be very careful. The paper is delicate in this part. That was a stupid thing. Of course, this is a damaged catalog already. But, yeah, those things do happen when you're an idiot like me who reviews old stuff. It literally came right apart in my hands. And I know there's someone out there who saw that and is angry at me. So, please don't be too angry. I didn't mean to do that. Bicycles. Nope, here we get to the old cars and toys. Now we're getting into toys, which is interesting. Outdoor playground sets. What are these? Look at these Halloween costumes. The crazy cat costume. You see that? Howdy Doody, Bozo the Clown, and a robot, like a space robot. Wow. Okay. Dolls. Boys' toys like little fire engines and trains, toy telephones, toy guns, toy cars. Oh my gosh. Auto scale kits, realistic detail for like old cars from the turn of the century. A projector that you could watch cartoons on. Super Circus. Look at that set. Train sets, military sets, little army men, little depots and barracks and half tracks. Not a lot of toys. Now we're getting into automotive. You could change your seats in your car. I'm trying to turn these pages very carefully because if you've been watching the video, you'll know that this is very brittle. I'm making a record of it, and I'm going to try to restore this catalog as much as I can and give it a home because it's a historical record. That, you know, I'm glad I'm recording it. So we have a glimpse. You can find some of these on eBay, but like I said, I'd be surprised if there's more than 100 of these still in existence in the entire world. Unless, like I said, there's a stash of them that no one knows about. Factory rebuilt engines. I mean, well, Sears did have the auto center. So, but it's cool to see this old 1950s automotive parts. And I feel terrible for that page tearing. Believe me, I usually try to be very respectful of these old things, and you know, but it happens. Huh? Vespas. I didn't know you could buy these in a Sears catalog. Tires. Here's a business reply card. A very small business reply card. Allstate Auto Insurance. Very carefully turn the page. Then we get to hoses, machinery, shop stuff, shelving, cabinets. Oh, this is like your kitchen sets to do your counters and everything, and sinks. Toilets and bathroom sinks. Light bulbs. I keep hearing that they're gonna switch completely to those non-filament light bulbs. Have they done that? I feel like you can still buy the old kind. I don't know. Maybe they have switched by now. I haven't really been keeping up. I do know the light bulbs I have in my office here have been working a long time. So maybe they have done that now. Great. Disappeared attic stairs. I used to be scared to climb up those stairs. My grandparents' garage have those, and my grandpa would pull that thing down and like climb up there and look for the box of National Geographics or whatever, and I'd be scared to go up those stairs for some reason because I thought they were gonna break, and here I was, 110 pounds, and they didn't break. But paintbrushes, paint, ladders, scissors, shaving stuff, straight razors you can still buy, silverware, pocket knives, Craftsman, of course, is the Sears tool company. This is hardware, rough hardware, things that stay on jobs. Hammers, planes, crowbars, brace used to be the hand drill. I've used them plenty of times. They work just as good as a power drill. I mean, vice grips, crescent wrenches, socket sets, hacksaws, toolboxes, different types of specialized tools, drill bits, vices. We get to your power tools. Automotive stuff. There's small engines. Lathes. Gym. Rock tumblers, gym makers. Circular saws. Sanding. Bench saws, table saws, drill presses. Yard wheelbarrows, shovels, spades, lawnmowers, landscaping, fruit, seeds to plant. Wow, I mean, rototillers, chainsaws, Briggs and Stratton small engines. Oh my gosh, look at this. Horse wagons. You could still buy horse-drawn wagons from the Sears 1953 catalog. I'm a little blown away. Wow. Milking apparatus. Milk pasteurization. Chicken farming. Pig farming, and and we get all the way to the end, the index. I'm amazed at all the different things you can find in this catalog. As you can see, it's a huge index, and this is almost an hour. We've been looking through this, every single page. So and then southeast. All right, and there's your order forms, quite a few order forms, and your payment plan, and that's the end. And that was interesting. I hope you enjoyed it. A little look back in the past. So until next time, please rate, comment, subscribe. Bye.